Do you like ghost stories? Want to hear about some of the haunted homes and locations that I've investigated? Tune in for the latest in paranormal news and guest interviews with me, Mr. Haunted, on the Haunted Chronicles, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Paramania, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
Welcome to Paramania Radio. You're listening to Leo Bonomo, Voice of Spirit, and tonight we're going to be talking about how do we help those who are passing, whether it's through an illness, through an accident. We've gone through the process of passing a good few times, but we'll probably touch on that as well. And the effects that, receiving bad news, for example, especially if you're not expecting it, going to hospital, getting some tests done and come back. And this actually happened to me, although I don't care about passing. When I go, I go. And I have said at different times that if my task is over now, I'd be glad to go tonight. That's just my personal view. It's not suicidal, although those thoughts many years ago, for all kinds of reasons, had occurred. So I know I'm here to do a task, and if I finish my task early, I would be quite pleased to go home. I wouldn't say that in front of my family, so if any of them are listening, I'm sure you know in which the way that you should take it. We're all here for a defined time, and we need to complete tasks, and that's it. So back to the subject, how do we help those who are passing through illness? I went for an examination, and it was like a bowel examination because I'd had problems. I get a lot of stomach problems, although actually most of what I've got is curing itself, apart from a little bit of being overweight, but I'm distracting myself. So I went for this examination, and the hospital should have given it away, really. Went to the hospital. It specialised in cancer, and the doctor there, who personally I think should be struck off, but he said, welcome, Mr. Bonomo, sit down. We've done some tests, and you have cancer of the bowel. No run-up, no preliminaries, no niceties. And as happened once before, no Macmillan nurse standing by, and he just come out with it. The man was a complete idiot. The funny thing, I think, really, from my point of view, is I think there was an ego trip there, and I think he was waiting for a really shocked, stunned reaction, which he didn't get because of what I do. So I just kind of said, oh, okay, and what are we going to do? And he didn't have too much to say. I could have reported him, perhaps should have reported him, because nobody knows how we're I'm going to say if we're normal, so I wouldn't consider myself normal in that respect, but if we're normal, there's a reaction, there's a stun shock. If we have got heart problems, it may induce heart problems. You could have some kind of a fit. Nobody knows how we're going to react. And I think this gentleman was very taken back by the fact that I wasn't taken aback at all. Very calm and no problem. Suffice it to say, I didn't have cancer. and haven't got cancer and didn't need to go back there. But if we're talking about that kind of news where you go and you have an examination and everything seems to be normal, and then, as I say, the hint usually is when they get a couple of nurses to come in or a nurse to sit with you, it usually heralds that there's something quite wrong. So how do we take that? We all react differently. I think some people would certainly be so stunned that they would actually react quite normally and as in fairly calm, and then go home or on the way home get hit by that realization of the verdict that's been given. So that is kind of, I think, where he sort of expected some sort of reaction with me. So there was no reaction at all. Hi, Sue.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh my God, it's going right. Let's have a celebration. I was just talking about this, sir, because I know that you've been in a similar situation. We're talking about helping those who are passing through illness, and I was starting off by I went to have a test, and then I got referred to get the diagnosis from this hospital, which was in West London, and they specialised in cancer. I didn't. They did other things as well, but I went there. I think I've told you this story. And then this guy said, come in, sit down. Right, you've got cancer. And I think he just wanted some sort of reaction. I think it was shock value. I think I could have sued. You've never got a tape recorder with you when you want one, have you? But it turns out I didn't. And I was talking about the reactions that people get. You go for some insignificant little test, and then it comes back. And as had happened to me before, you go in, and then two nurses join me who were Macmillan nurses. And that kind of gives the game away a little bit. For those that don't know, Macmillan nurses, certainly in the UK, they are cancer specialists, and they give all sorts of wonderful care, and they can help you on all kinds of levels, rearranging insurance, helping you with mortgage, all kinds of stuff. But I'm sort of distracting myself a little bit. But there does come a point, doesn't there, Sue, where we get some news, or a relative has got some news, and the usual reaction is, oh my God, and it needs to sink in. So have you had that kind of experience yourself?
I've had experiences, yeah, with different people.
Yeah.
I must admit, I haven't had it myself. I'm just trying to think. Yeah. No, I haven't had it myself.
Yeah. I've been, if I say I've been fortunate, I'm thinking totally mediumistically, and the fact that we need experiences. So I don't mean it in any cruel way, and it's certainly not a jibe at anyone, but I've been fortunate enough to have known of several people that have had that news, and one was my very dear friend Glenn, and he's really was completely out of the blue. And it's actually, he was the first, but I had two others where I've received that kind of news. And he had an annoying little cough, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him antibiotics, cough medicine, this, that, and the other. And Glenn was a very sensible guy, and he'd had this annoying little cough for about 3 months, and back and forth to the doctor. And in the end, he put his foot down and said, look, I need an X-ray. Something's going on. It's not right. And he went, and he got called back, and they basically said that one lung has completely more or less gone to cancer. The other one's well on the way. You've got 5 months to live.
Mm.
And the news just broke like that. And so he had very little time in that sense to adjust. I know he would have made a wonderful medium. He sat with me a few times and was very mediumistic. But he dealt with that in his own way, which we can only do. And the interesting thing about that, he obviously knew what I did, and he said, "Look, you know, if you want," it's very there's no ego there. He said, "If you want to visit me in hospital," I said, "Of course I will." And I went there, and we ended up talking about what it's like to pass, something we've discussed on the show many times before, and you know how the transition works and that. And I think it was a final affirmation for him that things were going to be okay. Now, he did pass, I think, in a fairly nice way. They were going to do... He was going to pass anyway, but what they were trying to do was prolong some life. So they said, look, we can do this operation because he had it in the end in the stomach, in the spine, 3 or 4 places in the spine, had it in the lungs, had it in the brain. And they said, we need to do this brain operation. You may not survive. So consequently, he had the operation, he was under anaesthetic, and he didn't pass through, which I think actually is not a bad way to go. At least you're out of it initially, and then, of course, the transition. But we had this chat, and he felt much, much calmer after it. Now, he didn't have the operation till about 2 months after, so there was a long gap. So this wasn't a sort of pre-op chat. You know, a pep talk kind.
Yeah.
But he dealt with it, and he was very calm about it. You know, and so he had a chance to do it. But I was talking to someone on Facebook, and I did the post because someone had got some bad news, and they didn't know how to help their friend. You know, what to say. So I did a little piece on there, and they passed that on, and the friend isn't a medium, but took some comfort and realisation from what was said, thank God. And I'm not picking myself up for that, because you and I and most mediums would do the same thing, you know, we help. But it suddenly inspired me to write a piece and to talk about how we can help, because people, especially relatives, if it's happening to a friend or a relative, quite often we don't know what to say, we don't know what to do we?
No, it's funny actually, because yesterday I saw a friend, and she's just been diagnosed again with cancer. And she's been through such a lot, because they gave her radiotherapy, and it completely messed up all her kidneys.
Yeah.
So she's now on dialysis, and now she's been told that she's got cancer again. And you know, and we were sitting there and sort of chatting about things, because she's very open to spirit, very open. She's a medium as well.
Oh, thank God.
You know, yeah. And, you know, she said, you know, what will be, but she said, I don't want anybody to treat me any differently to what they've treated me in the past, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I said, it's all right to say that, lovey, but, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to feel, you know,
We
they're
feel
going to have,
obligated, don't we?
yeah, you know, I said they're going to have sympathy for you. They're going to feel emotional for you, you know? Yeah. You know, I said even with me, even though I am connected, you know, I said it's still, it hurts, you know, to know that somebody that you know that has helped other people and they've been there for other people, they're suffering, you know. But she said, "Don't you dare treat me any different." And I said, "Oh, all right, fair enough. What do you want to drink?"
Yeah. Go and do the shopping for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being flippant. I don't mean to be, but yeah.
You know, so we had a laugh and we sort of, you know, went through a few pictures and that, you know, photographs and so on. And we had a laugh about different things. And of course, I took Pebbles with me as well. So she was laughing at the size of Pebbles. You know, "I've never seen a dog. That's a micro dog." I said, "Yeah, I know." But, you know, so she made an impression as well.
Yeah.
But it is very difficult. It is very difficult, especially when somebody, one of the ladies in my circle, actually, her friend, he's in stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And, you know, and she carried a lot of his energy. You know, because when she came in, I said to her, this is a few weeks ago, and I said to her, "You know, you've got a very dark energy around you, lovey." And I'm not talking about an attachment. I'm talking about a depression.
Yeah.
You know, and she said, "Oh, yeah, well, Peter's been over." So I said, "You've got to protect yourself from that because you can't stop it from happening." Yeah. You know, and if one thing is for sure, when you come into this life, you're going to leave this life. Yeah. But you'll go somewhere where it's an awful lot better than it is here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think it is that sense of helplessness. As you say, we do feel, as mediums, we do feel beholden to want to do this or to want to do that. But for people that are not sensitive, there's that real feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
And I often say, because I get lots of requests on Facebook, you know, ask for healing for this. And there are different ways in which I answer. I will always generally say I'll ask for healing. But sometimes I will say that I'll ask for God's will to be done. And that is because there is an inevitable end to whatever is ailing them. And, you know, for it to happen God's way and the way that that person's planned before coming here. But sometimes I do say when people say, "Well, look, you know, my mum's been diagnosed with cancer and she's got a few weeks left." And I say to them, I'll ask for healing. And I think they misinterpret that by thinking, "Oh, they're going to miraculously get better." And I sometimes have to explain that if you ask for healing, the healing will help in whichever way it's meant to be. And if you're obviously at a crisis and you're not going to survive that, then the healing helps the transition, doesn't it?
Yes. You know, one of the ladies I knew, she was also a medium. She didn't live that far away from here, from where I am. And she got leukemia. And she was in remission. And then she started to feel really ill again. And they said, "Well, really sorry, you know, but it's come back, and it's come back with a vengeance."
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a picture of her, and I felt this woman is so brave. There was a picture of her in hospital with her husband and with her son. And this was 2 days before she actually passed. And they had a big bottle of champagne. Oh. And they were sitting there drinking champagne. And a photograph was taken.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So she was like celebrating, okay, you know, I've struggled and I have fought as long as I could. I can't fight anymore because it's taken over. So I'm going to enjoy the last moments, you know, with my family. And they were sitting there having a celebratory drink of her life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. You know, because of what's occurred over the last couple of days, I did say to my daughter that, I just want everyone to have a big party
Yeah.
when I'm gone. No sadness. I want everyone to dress in bright colours. Essentially be themselves, but just be happy and have a good time. As everyone knows, I'm a big fan of Jimi Hendrix, and he was definitely a medium. And there's a song of his called "If Six Was Nine," and it's short notice, but we'll see if we can get to play it. And in one part of the song, he sings, "I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die." And what he's really doing there is highlighting the fact that it is a very personal thing. It doesn't matter whether there's 100 people there. It's only something we can do.
It's a very personal thing. It's a very personal thing. I know when my father passed to spirit, it was about an hour after we'd left the hospital.
Yeah.
So it was obvious that he wanted to pass on his own. A lady called Stephanie Barrows?
Yes. She's a medium, good medium, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's on from the chat room. Hi, Leo, just dropping in for a quick listen, Stephanie Barrows.
Oh, bless you, Stephanie. Thank you. High five, or whatever the vernacular is. Yeah. Oh, bless you, Stephanie. So it is something very personal, and we all know the stories, don't we, of sitting, holding vigil by the bed, sometimes for many, many hours, and the moment we go for a break, off they go. And we do choose it, and we choose it for spiritual reasons as well as other reasons. I think sometimes it's much easier to be on your own and just face that moment, because it is a fraction of a moment. It is. But sometimes we'd rather not let someone see us physically, or the body rather, because we're not there, but the body physically taking that breath, physically struggling, and that sometimes the nerves, they make the body shake, and we don't want a person to see that. So there are different reasons why we choose that moment, but it is a very, very personal thing.
A friend of mine passed about 3 years ago now, I think. And this might sound very odd to people, with me being a medium as well, but I've got this aversion to looking at a dead body.
Ah.
I just have. When my father passed and he was in the chapel of rest, I didn't go to see him because I just didn't want to see it. Yeah. And not just because, he was my father.
Yeah.
Stephanie says me too. So, well, that's good. I'm glad I'm not the only one, lovey. Oh, no, I do. Oh, okay. Right. Dave, that's David. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're the same as well, Dave.
It could be a hell of a long night, so.
Yeah. But, my friend, when she passed, they asked me if I wanted to go and see her, and she was still on the ventilator, and so she was breathing and she was normal colour and everything, and I went in and just sort of whispered in her ear and and told her how much I loved her. She was a really, really lovely lady, and I said, I just sort of looked round at all the family and said, have you just been waiting for me? And they said, yes. So I said, right, okay, well, I'm going to leave the room now so you can take her off the ventilator. Oh. And they did. And my daughter was with me and she said, do you want to go in and say goodbye? And I thought, okay. So I did. And I just didn't like what I saw.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just didn't like it at all. Went back to the waiting room, and the next thing I knew, my friends were standing next to me.
Mm.
And I said, "Are you all right now?" And she said, "Yep, I'm fine. Let's just leave them to it." And she walked out with us.
Wow.
And then she just disappeared when we walked outside of the hospital. She just disappeared. But I don't want to see it again. No. She went like a yellowy colour.
Yeah.
And that was only minutes after the ventilator had been turned off.
Yeah, because what happens is toxins in the body, they rise to the skin. You know, and if there's an artery or something that's gone, then that will begin to pull at the bottom. You know, if you're lying on your side, it will pull on that side, or on your back, it will pull in the back. So the body can change colour a lot. But I think there's also a recognition there that it looks like a body. It doesn't look like a person. And that's because we instinctively know the soul has gone.
Yeah.
You know, so it's. I think one of the other reasons as well. I didn't get to see my dad. I wanted to go see him, and the guy that did the autopsy said I wouldn't recommend it. And this is one of the things that we have to face. If you have an autopsy, there is literally a shell there. Everything's taken away. There's a reason for an autopsy, and it could just be a normal death or an apparently normal death, but they have to make sure. So it is literally a shell. And with my dad, when he was they had the thing with the Chapel of Rest. My cousin went to see him, and my cousin's 81 now, and she said, "I wished I hadn't. It really wasn't him." And the reason that was because I was completely out of it. No one had supplied a picture of my dad to the funeral home, and so in essence, they didn't know what he looked like. So when they stitched the mouth and that, they did what they thought was him, and it really didn't look like him. And so, you know, we can sometimes get that. They carried out some interesting aspects. Now, I've aspects of passing and the weight of the body, and have heard it's from a couple of grams to what's generally seems to be accepted is the weight of 21 grams, but up to 3/4 of an ounce, whatever that would be. Actually, that would be about right. Going back to my jewellery days, about 21 grams. And what they do, people that donate their bodies to science, they will sometimes do this experiment where, as they're passing, they're actually on a huge, very accurate weighing scale. And they'll monitor them, and the moment they pass, there's a drop in weight of 21 grams. Now, we can't say that's the weight of the soul because it is weightless, it's light, but there is a definite drop. And scientists, from a scientific point of view, find it very hard to explain what that is, but there's a definite loss of weight there. Okay, we're going to go into a break in a moment or two, and we'll come back and discuss the ways that we can help people that are passing, but also the relatives to help them understand. So we're just going to go into a break, and we'll be straight back after this.
Tune in to the Chris and Wayne Show every Thursday night at 8 o'clock on ParamaniaRadio.com. Hop aboard the Haunted Ship of Doom and join Captain Chris.
It was the government secretly outside of the studio.
Skipper Wayne.
I think it's time you get the Kraken out of your butt.
Deck Wench Joe.
Yeah, I got stuck on the corner.
And of course, Cabin Boy Todd.
Oh, look where I'm sitting.
And always remember our motto, don't just listen to the mayhem, be a part of it.
Have you ever wondered what's behind the open door? Then tune in with hosts Maggie Renee and Jody Nettles every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Only on the Paramania Radio Network.
If you would like to be kept up to date on upcoming show information and events here on Paramania Radio, then please take the time to click on the like button above the chat room to like our Facebook page. And click on follow to follow us on Twitter. Thank you for listening to Paramania Radio.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
I was going to say good evening. Well, it is evening here. I was lost for words, which I'm not often am. You're listening to Sue Breen and Leo Bonomo on Paramania Radio, and we're talking about helping those who are passing through illness, to help them understand and to get some confirmation or comfort from the fact that when that moment comes, there is an existence after. And the whole concept of spirit contacting us is to let us know that we do survive bodily death. And that is that, and confirmation of that is really what a medium's job is, isn't it, Sue?
Yes, it is. Yes. You know, I saw an article about a gentleman in Russia that was, he was passing with a cancer condition, and they actually asked him if he would agree to go into an MRI at the time that he was passing. Yeah. And he said yes. And you could see the spirit leaving the body.
Wow, that'd be great, because I got involved with a gentleman called. Now this is going to sound strange, because in the States, if they've got a body in no name, they call them John Doe. Yeah. And we're talking about this, and I was fairly close to a gentleman at one time called Kevin Doe, and he has a video program that does, it basically mimics what the MRI does. And he was saying that the guy that developed MRI worked for IBM, and he wrote the whole software program. And it's called Live Aura Video. And he realized when he was working with this equipment that if you lift the MRI from around or just over the body and go up, you can actually see the aura and the chakras. Ooh. And so he then started to write the software to alter that, and that's where Live Aura Video come from. And the interesting thing is that he said that those in the NHS, not perhaps the MRI scanner people themselves, those technicians, but the people above them certainly know that it will show the aura and the chakras. Now, they don't like to admit that. And I think one of the reasons that they don't like to admit that, it took them long enough to admit acupuncture, because from a medical point of view, they have, if you don't believe in any of this stuff, they have no idea how it works, because they don't believe in chakras, they don't believe in the aura. And acupuncture, as you know, sir, and I'm sure many listeners will know, works because pins are put through meridians. And if you think of chakras, you've got chakras at each joint, and they then get smaller and smaller and smaller. And one of the smallest point is a meridian. And needles are put in the meridian, and sometimes they're set alight, or they're activated or twisted, and that's what causes the cure.
Right.
So acupuncture, it's done in hospitals.
I've had it done.
Yeah, they know it works. They generally don't accept that it works through meridians, because according to them, this is all rubbish. So the people that work with the MRI scanners wouldn't generally know that you can lift it up and actually see the aura and the chakras. But the people at a fairly high level know that. They won't admit it because it then runs contrary to what they've been taught.
Yeah.
Medically, medicinally. We can't have that. That's not right. So there's this strange ambiguity there. But so that's interesting that they did that experiment. I wonder if that's on YouTube anywhere, because I'd love to have a look at that.
It could possibly be. But there's other videos on YouTube, and I think there was one of a lady that was on a trolley, in a corridor, and the CCTV thing caught this, and it was her spirit actually sitting up and then dissipating, just disappeared.
Wow.
And she passed, obviously she passed, and there was nobody there to see it, but there was CCTV that was that filmed it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I had a photograph. It was black and white, and it was published in a newspaper. So what you've got is the newspaper image, and it was many, many years ago. And what had happened was there was a photographer that was taking a few pictures of some surgery being done, and this was either for Scientific Magazine or as a teaching aid or something. And he was taking pictures, and this was a completely routine operation, no problem. Millions of them are done around the world. And he happened to take a picture at the point where the heart arrested and the spirit's coming out of the body, and she emerged through the head, and the arms are outstretched, Christ-like. And he took the picture at exactly the right time. And I published that picture several times. I've had it on my blog. I've had it on my website at some point. So I publish it sporadically, and it's a wonderful picture, proving exactly that. So it's a wonderful thing. That song that I mentioned, If 6 Was 9, we're going to play it at the next break. So if you want to listen to that and you'll hear that comment, I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. Again, indicating that it's a very personal thing. Because spiritualism is based on the reality of life after death and the proving that we do exist, when we have either some experience ourselves or some experience of mediumship, the very knowledge that we exist without a body helps us when we pass over. And that's very important, that we may have a little bit of fear, a little bit of trepidation as that moment begins. But the very next moment, there's that wonderful peace and that wonderful realization that something quite beautiful has happened. But it's the knowledge, isn't it? So through mediumship, that helps people realize any small amount will help, won't it?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. My mother-in-law, she passed away a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, and my sister-in-law was with her when she passed, and she said she was chatting to her, and then she said, "I'm going now," and that was it.
Oh,
she just closed her eyes and off she went.
It's a wonderful thing that clarity is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I worked for an insurance company many decades ago now, and there was a lady there who'd had. I've got someone with me that's got a strange sense of humour. This woman had the kind of experiences that people would say, "Oh, that's to die for," but she was very much a skeptic, and I think it was Spirit trying to let her know. And she was at the bedside of a relative who was very close to passing at that particular point, and they were all sitting around and doing the usual thing, trying to whisper, not really knowing what to do and sitting there. And this lady, she had been quite close to a coma for a couple of hours, and they were literally just waiting for that moment. And then, and she suddenly sat up and she pointed to a corner of the room and she said, "There's John and Harry." And everyone sort of looked at each other and looked up to the corner of the room, and they said, "Where?" And she said, "In the light." And as she said that, she just fell back and she was gone.
Yeah.
And yes, the person has passed, which, as you and I know, is a beautiful experience. But she still couldn't grasp it, this woman, even though she witnessed it, even though she knew what happened, she still couldn't grasp the fact that there was a life after. I find that very strange, but there must be a reason for her in doing that.
Well, there's an awful lot of people, Lovey, they're very logical. And if they don't see things in black and white, they'll convince themselves that the medication that lady was on, she's hallucinating. Yeah. She's seeing things because she can't see it herself. The lady that's passed, she's seeing things.
Yeah.
And they'll just come up with all these sort of things, but me personally, I don't believe in coincidence. I just don't, because I really believe that things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's there to either open the door for you or to, look what happened to my daughter over the weekend.
Yeah.
With that parcel.
Yep.
Yeah. She picks the parcel up, a little parcel, puts it on the side. When she comes back after taking the dogs for a walk, there's no parcel. So she's looking everywhere. She cannot find it. She's getting really stressed. She can't find it. And then when she goes to work, comes home, there's a card that comes through the door to say, "You need to be going to the post office. There's a parcel that needs to be signed for." And it's the one that she'd actually picked up and put it on the side. So Spirit, they play games with you.
Yeah, they do, very much.
They play games with you, so, when it comes to passing, they can also do the same things there as well.
Absolutely. And again, it's a wonderful mechanism of not only the person that's about to pass, if they get that enlightenment or that bit of comfort there, but it's also comfort for the relatives and the friends that may be there, and to understand that yes, they've literally gone from our sight, but they're still there. They're still in communication. I've got several books on this subject, and I've got a book called The Good Death, which I'm trying to scan for at the moment. But it talks about this. It talks about not only planning a death from from a technical point of view of, this is the funeral director I want, and there's this and there's that. But it also approaches it from a slightly religious or certainly spiritual point of view in that preparation for yourself. And I think we've discussed this many times, haven't we, about religion and how religion literally puts the fear of God into you, and that we have to kind of circumnavigate in some sense and say, that what religion has instructed you from a fear-based point of view isn't correct.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I was going to say something and my mind has just gone totally blank.
That's fine.
Totally blank.
That happens to me.
Yeah.
Several times a day, I've got to add. Although most of it I probably don't remember. We won't go there. But
yeah, I think, an awful lot to do with passing is that people they're frightened of if there's going to be pain, they're frightened of the way that they are going to pass. And that is, the main thing that is in their mind all the time. Is it going to hurt? Where am I going to go? What's going to happen? Is there somewhere to go?
And a lot of that's fear-based, isn't it? It's the religion going, well, if you haven't been good, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Which we know isn't true.
Yeah. But, you're saying about people planning everything. There was a reading that I did for a lady, and her sister, believe it or not, had planned her whole funeral, the whole thing, even down to what was written on her headstone.
Yeah.
The eulogy, the whole thing, everything.
My friend Glenn did a very similar thing, and he had a wonderful sense of humour. And the last song to be played was Fraggle Rock, which really, it just encompassed him, And I mean, I've been to one or two.
Was he a doozer?
He may well have been, yeah. So it just really reflected his sense of humour. He thought a lot about it. He didn't want anybody being sad, his kind of motto, I say, he would have made a wonderful medium because he'd had experiences himself and he did wonderfully well in classes when he was with me. But his philosophy was, I can hear his voice now. Shit happens.
Yeah.
and it's like, well, let's just get on with it. And so it was, I've never been to a funnier funeral. Some of the comments that people made, which I think he would really have endorsed, but his own comments. So he structured the whole thing, and it was quite funny. And I've done something similar. Eulogies I'll leave to other people, but I've planned songs and what I want to happen. Personally, I wouldn't want anyone spending, $1, $2, $3 grand on a casket. Something you can get those bags, can't you, or cardboard coffins? Because I want to be cremated. I think it just takes up less room, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I've kind of planned mine, and it's there are instructions, and I think some of mine, for myself, some of the songs are going to be quite different because they are very spiritual, but not spiritual in the sense of hymns. There's some Hendrix in there.
I thought there might be.
Yeah, there's some Santana in there.
Ooh, I like Santana.
Yeah, so in a traditional sense, it's nothing like a funeral, which is really what I want. And I hope the songs make people think, And so I might do a little bit about, what it's like to pass and don't mourn. And depending on the sense of humour I may be in, the frame of mind, I may say, look, I'm still watching you. Be careful.
Yeah.
Depending, it might not go down well, but I might throw that in. But yeah, so I've planned mine, and it's meant to be. I say unfortunately, we know what I mean. I'm 61 now, so I've got 59 years to go, because I'm supposed to be passing at 100, which seems an awful long time away. But let's hope I get it all done.
Sorry, how many years?
Is it 59? Yeah, 49. Sorry, 49.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, the rut started already. With any luck, I might make it to next week.
I'm thinking, oh no, I'm not very good at maths, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I'm having one of those nights. But I've kind of planned mine, and I don't want any fuss. In fact, the instruction with the ashes are throw them where you like. And I've told
I know what
that.
I know what I want with mine.
Yeah.
I want, and it was on Facebook the other week, and I thought it was an absolutely brilliant idea. The ashes, you can plant a tree.
Oh yeah.
And the tree grows from the ashes.
Yeah, I think that's right. You can also have the ashes, which are carbon. They crush them and put them under stress, and actually make diamonds out of them. I'm not sure I would go for that myself. No. But there's all kinds of curious things that people want to do with ashes. A funny thing is, my dad was, like myself, very much an animal lover. We used to watch Jacques Cousteau and all kinds of things. And when he passed away, I kept some of his ashes at the house that I used to live in. I've still got some here in an urn somewhere, or in a bag, yeah. And there are some in an urn in Italy, and he wanted some thrown into the lake where Stresa is. And so I went along to do that. And it was very apt because I wet myself laughing. The water's very clear. You can see it's clear to 20 feet, although by Italian standards, that's fairly polluted. But it's clear. And I just looked in, and there was nothing there. And I threw a handful of ashes in, and from nowhere, a swarm of fish went and just sucked them all up. And I thought that's very apt, because he was an animal lover, and we did used to watch Jacques Cousteau. So I threw the other handful in, and same thing happened. They came out of nowhere. And I thought, he's probably enjoying that. And I did hear a little laugh. But there you go.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah. So I don't. As I've said to my daughter, it doesn't really matter because I'm not there. Not in the body. Well rid of it by then, I should think.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It's what's in our hearts and minds, and I think that's what people have to understand. That you're still connected by memories. You are in some ways much closer to that person, because if you've got a relative in Australia, for example, you may not see them much. You may not talk on the phone very much, but when they're in spirit, they are and can be very close to you.
Yeah.
So quite often you're closer than ever.
Yes, I agree with that. I do agree with that. The lady that was here earlier on, and I was giving a reading to, I said I've got a grandmother figure that's stepping forward here, quite a cuddly lady. She's given me an H name, and she said, "Oh, that's Herta." And she did mention another name, and I can't remember what it was. She said, "But I didn't know her. I said, "No, but you're linked, lovey, because you're all in the family."
Yeah.
So even though you didn't know her in life, she can still come in around you because your grandmother was her sister. So it was a great aunt. Sorry, not a great grandmother. It was a great aunt.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I didn't realise that." And I said, "Yeah, you're all linked because you're all in family."
Yeah, it's a myth, isn't it? That only brothers, sisters, mum, dad, grandfather, whatever, that they come through. And I think often the best evidence is when somebody comes through that you don't know, and you then have to go and research it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go into a break in 30 seconds or so. Do have a listen to Jimi Hendrix, If Six Was Nine, where he utters those words. Passing is very personal. It isn't painful, and we're going to be talking about some of the processes of passing when we come back. So, straight after the break.
Hi, this is Alan Cox from Musical Memories on the Paramania Radio Network. Come and join me every Friday, 11 p.m. UK time at 6 p.m. Eastern for an hour of great music from down the decades.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
There's a new show on the horizon. No, really, that's what it's called. Join host Brock Burrows and Vicki Johns as they kick off the Sunday night lineup and talk about paranormal, spiritual, and current events that affect people and the world around them. They'll share how these events shape the world you live in and ask if these events control our decisions and our lives. Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. And for our one little listener in North Korea, that's 9:30 a.m. You know who you are. On the horizon, only on the Paramania Radio Network. Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Hi, welcome back. I was trying to find the book that I mentioned before the break, and I can't quite find that, but I have found another book, and it's What They Saw at the Hour of Death. And if you want to buy this book, it's on Discus, and it's written by Carlis Osis, O-S-I-S, Ph.D. I'm going to pronounce this other one very badly. It looks like Erlender. That's E-L. No, it's not. It's E-R-L-E-N-D-U-R Haraldson with a double S, Ph.D. And I'm sure you'll know the name of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross there and Raymond Moody, who have given a critique and written about the book, and it's a fascinating study of results of over 1,000 afterlife experiences, and these are people who have passed and then come back, so they're able to recount what they saw. And one of the very interesting things that comes through the book is how similar the experiences are to a degree. But if you were, for example, a Buddhist, you would tend to see Buddha. If you're a Christian, and you would tend to have a Christ experience, etc. And it's believed that the experiences are geared to what you believe in, because it's a sense of comfort. So if you have been brought up Catholic, then you would certainly have an experience of either God or Christ being close, and this would happen with any religion or particular belief that you had, which to me is quite interesting, because in being a medium and having, I only speak for myself, minimal knowledge, because the more I read into it, the more I realise I don't really know very much. But so a medium's experience would be a much more spiritual experience of the passing, and our knowledge would fit into it. And that's why spiritualism or spirit contact is so important, because they can give you a basis for what you're going to experience. So it is, as I say, produced by Avon Discus. I've got a very short what's that? I can't read it. It's a very well-worn book. But if you're interested, it's called At the Hour of Death, and it's by Carlis Osis and Orlando. I do apologize for that.
Bless you.
You know, they do say that when you sneeze, your heart stops and it's a mini death.
Yeah, that's why they say bless you.
Ah, right, okay. So I've just died live on air and come back. So there you go. Sue, would you like to give out your website URL?
Yeah, my website address is all one word, theclairevoyantmedium.com. There is everything on there that you would need to know about me, where I've come from, how I've worked, what I do. I do Skype readings, I do telephone readings, parties, demonstrations, groups, charity evenings, you name it, I do it. I've even been known to sweep the floor afterwards as well.
Oh, bless.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yes, and if you want any readings from myself, you can get me on www.leo-bonomo.com. So that's something else that you can do. So there are some very, very good books out there on passing. The more that you can arm yourself with information, the more use it will be to yourself when you pass, but it'll also help you to enlighten those who are going through that process, or other relatives, you know, that sometimes can't understand. There's a kind of fallacy as well about mourning, isn't there? So, you know, that there's a set period, or you have to. I know in Italy, widows will generally wear black. I think it's around 10 years. I suppose it's an honour thing, you know, that you have to show respect in that way, which I can understand showing respect, but I don't think it should take up the rest of our lives. No, I don't, to be honest. You know, I mean, what is a period of time of mourning? You know, when you look at Queen Victoria, for argument's sake, when she lost Albert, she was in black for years, decades. You know, and you know when. To me, this might sound a little bit cold, but to me, you know, when you love somebody and you've lost that person, you know that they're not going to come back, you know, and it's a matter of moving on in life, you know. It is. So, yes, you know, so if somebody can give you comfort, you know, I don't see why people don't move forward. But some people don't. You know, there's only one person for them, and that's it. Yeah, and I can understand that. I can understand that. But life is for the living. You know, and you have to make the most of life, don't you? You know. You do. I mean, I've done several readings for people, and again, I only remember this very clearly because it's a benefit to me, but benefit to students. And to others at times like this. I've had several readings where the husband has come through and basically, you know, expressed his undying love for his wife, but said, look, you know, I want you to be happy. I'm not gone. I'm here. Nothing has changed from that point of view. Our love will last eternity, but I want you to be happy, remarry, find someone. And I've actually had people actively come through and guide the partner that's left to a new relationship.
Yeah.
And again, I think for some people that could be life-changing. And I know it's an anathema to some that, well, you know, they was my my twin flame. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if that's the path that you're going to run for whatever reason, then fair enough. But I think people take that on board and feel it's disrespectful, you know, if they get remarried again. It's somehow tainting what was there. And it's not the case at all.
No, because, you know, you'll never find the same thing in another person that you found in the first person, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, we are all unique within ourselves. So you could find something in another person, you know, that the first husband or first love didn't have.
Yeah.
And love them for that as well, you know. So, yeah, I feel, sometimes I feel sorry, or I've got a lot of sympathy for people like that, you know, because they were their one and only, and that's it. But then, you know, I think to myself, you've got such a long life to live, you know. It just seems a shame that you're living it on your own.
Absolutely. And you know, there is that saying as well, isn't there, that if you love someone enough, you love them enough to let them go. And I know that this is what's happened with those that have passed the spirit, that they love the one that's left for so long. They've loved them so long, and they want them to enjoy or have some comfort in life afterwards. It doesn't matter. Again, I think it's a lack of understanding, and they feel, well, it's a betrayal. And then if you do believe in, you know, the church or whatever, when you get over, you've betrayed them, you won't meet them again. And so it's kind of, it's almost a prison sentence, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And that's the way some people look at it. And yet in other cases, you know, there was a young lady that came to me going back a while, and she lost her husband, and she lost him in his mid to late 20s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, leaving a couple of daughters behind, and she's had tattoos done. Now, when she came to me, she had long sleeves on, and, you know, and I didn't see anything. And I said, this young man that's coming forward here, and I want to say young man because I know that he passed before his time. But I said he was quite ill, you know, he struggled big time at the end. And she said, yeah, I know who that is. And I said, but he's talking about tattoos, lovey. And she went, oh, I knew that you'd bring that up. She said tattoos done, his name, and, you know, sayings that he used to say, and all sorts of things. And I said, he's standing here, pointing his finger, wagging his finger at you, saying, no more. Don't have any more done, you know.
Yeah.
And she was saying, well, I was thinking about having another one. I said, but this is what he's saying. Don't have any more done. And you know why? Because he said, when you meet somebody else in the future, looking at those is reminding that person that he could still be around.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose in a sense, second best, you know, he's gone and you're making do. Yeah. It's
yeah, and that's what he was saying, you know, don't have any more done. I don't want you to have any more done, you know, but I do want you to be happy. And she said, but I don't want anybody else. And there she is in her 20s. And I said, look, love, you've got a long way to go yet. A long way to go, you know. So somebody will be coming forward for you. I'm positive. Whether it's now or later on in life, but somebody will be coming forward for you. And because he's going out there looking for them.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to be on your own, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had instances of that as well where, you know, the partners come through and really what the client has needed, if you like, is permission to begin living life again, and to understand, and so I've actively had partners from spirit drawing the old partner and a new one together, and kind of matchmaking, saying, well, look, you will find this person, they've described them, and obviously he's different to the first partner, but to make a life. And it's quite encouraging. I have 2 or 3 clients that at present where a similar thing is going on, and they're very hopeful now. They've got hope that whatever time they've got left doesn't have to be on their own, and it's not disrespectful.
Yeah. It must be hard for people. I know, I was divorced, and my ex-husband has passed away.
Yeah.
He passed away a few years ago. And the day that he passed away, my daughter phoned me at 7:10 in the morning, and at 7:25, 15 minutes later, my ex-husband was in my face.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, where did you come from? And he gave me a message.
Oh, bless him.
And it was like, wow, okay. So that was in his transition, right? So that's when I was working in a proper job. And when I came back that night, I turned my TV on and Sky Sports was on.
Oh, a favourite channel of his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it and thought, okay, Tone, I know you've been around. Because I don't watch Sky Sports, no way. But he put it on there.
Yeah. If another little anecdote about my dad. He was a twin. He'd had lots of twin experiences. He knew when his twin had passed away, for example, lots of twin experiences. And he knew I had a great interest in this. I don't think he realised the scope of it, because although he'd had twin experiences, he didn't believe in this. And so it was a bone of contention at different times. And I did say to him that, when you get over, come see me. And it actually took about 2 years after he'd passed away. And I saw him at a distance. It was a little bit like looking through the wrong end of a telescope. He was quite small and in the distance, and looking very, very sheepish, and looking at me and looking at the ground, and not really wanting to acknowledge I was there. And he went, "Oh, you were right." And that was it. And that was the first contact I had from him after 2 years. And he's been in contact several times since then. That was in '98 that he passed. But it's quite strange because, you talk about the little comforting things that they do. And my dad was a very, very good gardener. And in our second house, he used to help me with the gardening, what plants were and how to cut them and propagate them and all that. And I still don't have that knowledge now. I'm useless in the garden. Most things die. I've not got green fingers. But he came back, and his love was gardens and flowers, and he helped me with that. So there's, they don't change. I think that's one thing that we need to get through to people. You've got the transition. They don't change. They're still the same. Still same sense of humour. Okay, if anyone is interested, there is a book that my publisher says I have to say I wrote. I kind of did. It was done by automatic writing. But if you're interested in the afterlife, my book is called Summerland. You can get it on Amazon, and it explains about before passing, the actual transition itself, what you find in spirit, how you can progress in spirit, and it's very, very simply written. It's simple enough for older children to read, and you can also get it on Kindle as well. But it's definitely an adult book, and it explains about those things and what happens. And within part of the book is the passing of a partner and that kind of reaction that we have. So if you're interested, that is something to look at. Okay. If anybody wants a reading in the last segment, then do give us a call. If you have any questions yourself about a loved one or a relative that's passing, if you want some advice on how to tackle that, what to say, what to do, we're going to be discussing how we can help them transition, how we can ask for healing, send them light, and how we can do that very, very important thing, which is allow them to let go and allow them to move on. Because some people, I wouldn't say it's fear necessarily, but some are reluctant to let go, aren't they, Sue?
They are, definitely. And they have to cut that, the cord between this world and the other world. They have to cut that cord and to move forward. But, at the end of the day, it does come. And they go to a much, much better place. Quite often I've had people come through and they've shown me them walking across a bridge.
Yeah.
With the light at the other side, but they're actually walking across a bridge, And others, have literally shown me the light and them stepping into the light, and just sort of disappearing.
Absolutely. I mean, there are some wonderful films which depict this, and of course, Ghost is one of the most obvious ones. There's a wonderful film with Robin Williams called What Dreams May Come. But just recently, it is a cartoon, it is animation, but there's a wonderful film called Coco, which I think we saw that together, didn't we?
We did. You've got a very short memory.
I know. I find it helps with being a medium. People say, one of the things thrown at us by skeptics is that, if we've got, 40 people in a hall, we've memorized everything we've looked up, from day dot to the present.
Yeah.
And that's all we do is we repeat that back. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, and you'd need, I can't remember what it's called now. It's a sort of photographic memory, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's something that skeptics used to throw at us. But thank God I've got a really bad memory, so there's not a lot to empty when I start reading. It's I've often said it, but people say, "Do you remember readings?" And my answer sometimes is, "Excuse me, I've got enough crap of my own to deal with without anybody else." Excuse the French. We're just going to go into a break now. I can't talk. And we'll be straight back after this.
So it's Monday.
Yeah.
And what do we always do on Monday?
Well, duh. We go there.
Where at?
Paramania? How long you been doing this?
Well, long enough, but we need to let other people know.
I know you'd be like,
this is Teresa, and please come join us for Spit, Chat, and Laughter Lunches. Jay'll
and
make
this
you
is
laugh.
Jay. Hey, y'all, this is Big Dumb Redneck. Come listen to us here on ParamaniaRadio.com.
I'll get out my stones and my crystals and make you feel all tingly inside.
And I'm about as sensitive as a rock.
You are a rock.
Guess Sparty's one. What time?
7 to 9 p.m. Where are you at?
I'm right here.
I'm
Why?
sitting next to you. You're looking at me.
I don't like being in the studio with you. You do bad things.
Oh, no, not all the time. You guys come and listen to us
I
on
would.
ParamaniaRadio.com.
I would, because she's funny.
Monday nights, 7p to 9p.
Eastern Daylight Time. ParamaniaRadio.com.
Tune in to the Chris and Wayne Show every Thursday night at 8 o'clock on ParamaniaRadio.com. Up aboard the Haunted Ship of Doom and join Captain Chris.
It was the government secretly outside of the studio.
Skipper Wayne.
I think it's time you get the Kraken out of your butt.
Deck Wench Joe.
Yeah, I got stuck on the corner.
And of course, Cabin Boy Todd.
Oh, look where I'm sitting.
And always remember our motto, don't just listen to the mayhem, be a part of it.
If you would like to be kept up to date on upcoming show information and events here on Paramania Radio, then please take the time to click on the like button above the chat room to like our Facebook page. And click on follow to follow us on Twitter. Thank you for listening to Paramania Radio.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
Fantastic. We've got Darcy on the line, and just before I speak to her, we did this before, I'm sure. There's something called the death clock. When am I going to die? It's just to sort of bring in a little bit of humour about this, and you can find that on www.deathclock.com. But you've also got www.death-clock.org. So they look like two different websites there, but I think we did this live on the show before.
We
and
did. That obviously it does come to mind that we have done that before.
Yeah, and I think mine either said that I shouldn't be here already or something. I can't remember. There was something quite humorous about it, but there you go. Hi Darcy, how are you?
How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're both good here. Hanging on, as you do.
I know you always talk about Jimi Hendrix, but I'm a huge Bob Marley fan, and I always wondered if he was maybe a medium or something.
He was very spiritual.
I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. When it was a different style of writing, of course, but I would definitely say he's very spiritual. He was a Rastafarian, and
yeah.
Again, it's a religion, but I think it's one that's quite spiritual.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Actually, talking about that, do you remember Jazzy Jeff? Jazzy Jeff?
Soul
to Soul.
Yeah.
Soul to Soul. Yeah, they're going on tour. He's a Rasta.
Okay.
Yeah, they are going. They're doing quite a few places around with Chesney, somebody as well. I can't remember what his name was now. He made one hit single, I think. Chesney Hawks or something. I don't know.
Oh, Chesney Hawks. That name I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, and if you listen to Soul, that is all about life. It's all about giving, loving, and everything else. And that is all to do with the Rasta movement. It's not all, it's not all weed and, cannabis and whatever.
Yeah. People just pick that out and But I know Bob Marley's family, they all still sing.
Yes, they do.
They all still sing.
Yeah, Ziggy Marley.
Yeah. He's got a huge family.
He has.
He had several wives, yes, as well. And coincidentally, because I don't believe in coincidence, there's a lovely lady that I know who's a film producer, and I think it was Rasta Marley. I can't be sure. And she did a song called One Love, which is the title of one of Bob Marley's songs. And it's a great film. And Bob Marley's son is in the film. And she also gave a chance to a gentleman that's very, very well known now, who's in the film, called Idris Elba. So yeah. So he's very big.
He's very big over here.
Yeah, I was going to say he's very big all over, and then I thought that doesn't quite sound right. But he's a big star in the States, all over the world. Sorry, that's my sense of humour coming out.
Well, he's quite a big man, I think. Anyway, right, okay.
Right, we'll get past that. So that was a very early film of his. But again, it's about the spiritual aspect of the music, and it's a good film. So if you want to see One Love. The producer is.
Well, that was one of his big hit songs.
It was, yeah, and the aspect of the film is about that spiritual love, and the one love that should encompass the world. So it's it's fascinating how these things all tie together. You bring something up which, for you, Darcy, may seem a bit remote. Let's talk about Bob Marley. And I know someone that has worked with his son and made a film. So it's these things are never random.
No.
Well, because I was listening to your Jimi Hendrix song, and when I was listening to it, Bob Marley popped into my head. He's one of my favorite. I love reggae, so I don't know why, but I just suddenly thought of Bob Marley. So it was like.
There's obviously a spirit connection there between yourself and us, and and the subject. Yeah.
And I always liked this song, "Three Little Birds," and I never really thought about it till now. But it probably is actually somehow spiritual, some connection with the three birds in the song. I don't know exactly, but there's something.
Yeah, it's about nature and how sweet nature and life can be, and we have all these worries, and yet you've got, these three little birds that apparently don't have a care in the world, and it's a spiritual comfort, really, in that, whatever goes on, as humans, we can look at something and get really depressed and negative about it, and another great favourite of mine is Carlos Santana, and he said that you can walk along the road and you can either look at the dog mess, or you can look up and see the beauty of the sky. And I think essentially that's how we are sometimes. All we can see is the bad stuff, and we just need to shift our focus. Darcy, have you had to continue? I've just gone suddenly blank as well. I'm just going to try and get focused. Yeah, okay. Have you had an experience? It's one of those nights. Have you had an experience of having to deal with a past one, with somebody close to you passing? Shall I take that as a yes?
Have you had an experience with somebody passing, Darcy? Yes, her father.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much my whole family.
Yeah.
There's only like 2 cousins left.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So has that been, have you had that experience of knowing they're going to pass, illness or something, or because sometimes it's an accident,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, I knew he was in the nursing home, and he was really good till the very end, and then he just got so he was sleeping all the time, and they pretty much told me his body was shutting down, and I knew he was. And I went to see him on his birthday, and I kissed him, and I told him I loved him, and I knew that was the last time I was going to see him. And then 3 days later, they called me, like in the middle of the night, and they said, well, you should probably come see him. He's not going to be here much longer. And I said, I know. And I'm like Sue, I couldn't go down there. I couldn't do it. And because it was about an hour away, and I couldn't do it. I knew he was going. Yeah. I already knew it. And then they called me at 3 a.m. and I already knew when they called. I already knew he was gone. I said, yeah, I know.
There's a lot of people that pass around. Yeah, there's a lot of people that pass around that time. Personally, I think it's quite a spiritual time. People do call it, for obvious reasons, the witching hour, because we're quite open when we're in deep sleep, and we come out of our body and we travel around. So there are lots of experiences, and it's unfortunately been named the witching hour. But people do quite a lot of people pass around that time. But a lot of people also pass in November, and November's known as the month of the dead. And I think generally it's because
his was October. It was his birthday's October 6th, and he died on October 9th.
All right. Yeah, because some people do die on the same day that they're born, don't they?
Yeah, my grandfather did.
Yeah, I think he held on for me though, because I was actually going to have a big party, but he was too sick. So it was his 70th birthday, and actually I think he just held on for me.
Well, people do that. You often hear of people saying, like, you're really not well, and they go, oh, well, it's my niece's birthday in a week's time, and I want to see her, and they literally will hold on, see the niece, and pass within a couple of days. So personally, I think that's a blessing. I think it's an arrangement we've made, and we can do that to complete what we need to. And sometimes people hang on for a long time, don't they? If someone's coming from across the world, get back, your dad's really ill and they live in Australia, and they hang on until we get there. So it kind of works both ways.
And there was an odd thing that happened too when he passed. I had a real close girlfriend, and her uncle died the same time, at the exact same time. I talked to her the next day, and she was also close friends with my dad, and she said, my uncle just passed away at 3 a.m. this morning, and I said that was the same time my dad passed.
Oh, isn't that wonderful to think that they would meet?
It was so strange. It was like, oh my God. It was like
my dad was a twin, and he was Italian, and he got interred over here during the war, and I won't go into too many details, but he was actually interned because of his attitude for 5 months. 5 years and 2 months, and the war only lasted 5 years. So that's got to tell you something, because it could be awkward. And when he was interred, he had a sudden realization that his twin had passed, and we hadn't had any news for many, many years. In fact, my dad got news. He passed in 98, so I think about 95, 96, we suddenly found out what had happened, because he was injured on the road to Stalingrad, fighting against the Russians, and he was taken to a Russian hospital, and he was too badly injured and he passed away. But my dad was suddenly notified of this, and there was something passed to him. It was sent to him that he collected, so he picked that up. And as we're talking about this, my grandmother always believed he was alive and he would return home, and she never left the villa. She never went away, because she said, when he comes back, I want to be here. And so he passed, I think it was 1943 or 1944. My grandmother, I was 3, so she passed away in 1960, and she would not move away from the village. She wouldn't go on holidays or anything, because she firmly believed he would be found and he would be alive. So again, it's one of those sad experiences that we can have. But it was an experience she chose, that I do believe. But some people are loyal in the extreme, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you always hear those stories, too, about, like, dogs, that go back to the train station, years after their owners passed, and they just go back for years and years until they die.
Yeah,
absolutely. There was a short piece of video on YouTube where the dog was literally starving itself, and it laid on its master's grave and wouldn't leave it, and so animals themselves can become just as heartbroken as humans. It's in a way it's very sad, but it's a very beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't understand people that are cruel to animals.
No.
It's a terrible thing. Okay. Have you had any need, Darcy, to sort of speak to someone, a relative, to explain to them when another relative has passed away? Have you? I say it's a privilege because it is, but have you had that privilege?
No, not really. Some of them passed fast. Like my mom, when she got sick, it was totally unexpected, and she was very young. And she went in the hospital and died 3 days later. So, and I lived in another state. And so, and my dad, it was a lot later. And my sister was already gone. And my grandmother was already gone. So really, no, I haven't. It was funny you were talking about your dad didn't really believe when he lived. That you were spiritual, that you were a medium or anything. And my dad didn't really believe in that either. And it was funny. Somebody read for me, I think it was Sue, and said, your father's here, and he didn't believe in this when he was here, but he does now. I thought that was kind of funny.
Sometimes they get a big shock,
after they've passed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then they believe in it.
I was in a group tonight because Stephen Hawking's passed away today. Brilliant mind.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, brilliant mind, highly skeptical. And I was joking with the group that I was with because I said, boy, I bet he's had a shock. Because obviously, not only would he not need his wheelchair, but it will suddenly be, hold on, I can't get my brain around this. Something has happened. And I just think it's quite funny, that he suddenly got over and realised, oh my God, I was wrong for most of my life. Because he being a scientist, all these hypotheses about, why it's all complete rubbish, it's all imagination and fanciful, and there he is, and suddenly found himself there and thinking, oh crap, I was wrong.
I wonder if people were standing there laughing, waiting for him.
I'm sure, relative. I can just see that puzzlement because, of course, he would be perfect. Just standing there, you can see he was obviously a very brilliant man, but I can just imagine him standing there with that look, that puzzled look on his face, thinking something's changed. And this, I must be dreaming. This is not happening.
Well,
sorry, Darcy.
I could tell you, if my grandma was there, she'd be laughing. So.
Oh my God, yeah. I had an interesting piece of dialogue with a skeptic because the subject of near-death experiences had come up, and this skeptic had said, "I've been there. There is nothing, it's happened to me. I can tell you positively." And what he was basically saying was that when this thing happened to him, there was darkness, there was nothingness, and that was it. And then suddenly sucked back into the body. And I very gently asked him how he was aware of darkness and how he was aware that there was nothing there. Because if you've died, there is nothing. So it's not a fact that there's nothing there and you're aware of it. There's just, that's it. Pardon the pun. Someone's just said to me, there's just a dead end. So that might be your grandmother, actually, come to think of it. But, you can't be aware of there not being anything or there being blackness. And he didn't really have an answer to that, because it's like, okay. And off he went, just he signed out or whatever it was. So it was quite funny.
That's really weird, isn't it? I mean, I actually read for somebody once, and this was in the church in St. Neots. And I went to this gentleman and I said, "You've had near-death experience, haven't you?" And he said, "Yes, I have." And he came over to me afterwards and he said, "They say that your life flashes before your eyes." I said, "So, yeah." And he said, "Well, it did with mine, but it was like looking at different video screens, And
I've heard that.
Yeah, he said it was like different screens that was going zoom, 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 in front of him.
Yeah.
And then he literally came back again. He'd broken his neck.
Wow.
Oh.
He'd actually broken his neck, and he was in one of them metal things,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For
like
many
a brace
months
or
after.
traction or something.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "I will never ever forget it. Never ever forget it." But we've come to the end of the evening now.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Before we go, because we've still, I know it goes so quick. Before we go, because I think we've still got a couple of minutes left.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Have we got 1 minute? Okay. 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you, Darcy. I obviously need my bed. Thank you, Darcy, for calling in again. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Bless you. And thank you to all the listeners, and we'll see you next week.
Bless you too.
And take care, Darcy and David.